Welcome back to What's Next? Living Longer, Better, Smarter. Today, great gifts and gadgets. This episode is made possible by Vivid Pics.
So I've been in the photo business for 37 years, and I've seen a lot of things come go. But one thing has not changed, and that this wonderful thing we call a photograph captures a moment in time so that we're able to reminisce and relive those memories tomorrow. And it's important for us to do that so we can share them with loved ones and we can share them with future generations. So please don't let your memories fade. They're important.
I'm Fred Fishkin along with Mary Furlong. Hi, Mary.
Hi, Fred. Wow, time is really flying by. We're here in December already. And the Washington Innovation Summit is the 12th and 13th at the National Press Club. We're so excited to be taking a deep dive into innovation and investment in the care economy. And you and I will be meeting in person at the Press Club.
Once again, yes. So all of the thought leaders and innovators and all of the networking that takes place, really exciting. And all of it aimed at improving lives. For those in the audience interested, the website is WashingtonInnovationSummit.com. Again, on December 12th and 13th at the National Press Club in Washington. And also this month, the holiday season. It can be challenging to find just the right gifts, especially for older adults, maybe. And we are very happy to have with us an orthopedic surgeon. What does that have to do with it? Well, Dr. Carmen Quatman is an orthopedic surgeon at the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center. Hi, Dr. Quatman.
Hi, good afternoon.
We're so happy to have you with us on this podcast. You have specialized in geriatric orthopedic trauma and have some wonderful ideas for fall prevention gifts. And with the audience getting older, next year the boomers at the top end will be 78. And so 78 to 88, we see a lot of people with falls. Tell us a little bit about your practice and what you do and why this is so needed.
Sure. So I'm an orthopedic trauma surgeon. I specialize in fracture care and trauma. So that spans everything from bad motorcycle accidents all the way up to patients who fall in their own home and sustain, for example, like a hip fracture. Early in my practice, I had always wanted to be a sports medicine surgeon. I wanted to get athletes back into their big game. And then I realized after having my own traumatic injury, how difficult it was to even navigate my own home safely. And now having navigated that with my own family members, my dad, as he was going through a chronic illness that led to difficulty to navigate his own home, it really flipped my switch. And I got really excited about creating new ways to keep people living in their home safely. And during my fellowship, I was partnered next door to an emergency medical service education group. And they knocked on the door one day and they said, "Hey, I don't know if you can help us, but we've been having all these patients who fall in their home and they're not hurt and they don't need transport to the hospital, but we really want to find strategies so that they don't need to keep you calling 911 to get help getting up." And so I was really very interested in that. I hadn't heard that. That's called a lift assist. And so I decided to go on a paramedic run with them to figure out what was really going on. And it was eye-opening. In the healthcare services, as a physician, I don't get to see what patients' houses look like. And I have to make strategies for making sure that they can get home safely. And so it really ended up in this very unique partnership that going from a sports medicine mindset, how can we strategize and coach our patients up to leave the home safely and make sure they can get home safely when they leave the hospital. And so with that partnership, we have done a unique, almost national approach to this. So we call ourselves Community Fit, so Fall Intervention Team. And we meet quarterly with paramedics, city engineers, patients, all kinds of different stakeholders to strategize ideas. And one of the things we realize is patients have come up with all kinds of great strategies to navigate their own home safely. And we really need to find ways to elevate this so that we can help each other stay at home safely and prevent traumas within our home. So that has been a really passionate program for us. And that's how I got started. I just want to create better ways for patients to be home safe.
Well, you and your colleagues at the Wexner Medical Center have some great suggestions, some that are not so obvious. So why don't you talk about some of these ideas? And I love the focus group that you have, the pulling people from all these different constituent groups.
Yeah, sure. So we like to think of it almost in buckets and categories. So one of the first ones we talk a lot about is clothing. So in the orthopedic world, I have a lot of patients who come into the hospital setting or come to my follow-up visits. They're wearing the same clothes they had in the hospital or even the hospital gown because they haven't figured out ways to change their clothing without having significant pain, or they have braces and casts. So when I first started looking into that, really didn't exist, this idea of kind of adaptive clothing lines, but that has really changed the last few years. So there's some unique opportunities to create clothing for your family members, very simple things, cutting a shirt and adding a zipper or a Velcro strap for someone who, for example, needs a sling. Older adults struggle with buttons, so finding strategies to overcome buttons can be really helpful. One of the things that were really popular when I was a kid was the tearaway pants that you see basketball players wear. Those really haven't come back into trend and style, but there are some opportunities for that. I've also seen some really unique things for patients going through cancer treatments or who get IV infusions, where they have zippers and openings where the IV would be stuck in their kind of elbow region, so that they can open that up but still stay warm and not have the lines caught up in their clothing. So that was one really fun area that you can brainstorm that might be very, specific to a family member. And just some really creative ideas that have really come down the pipeline around that.
I know there's Button Helper and Impact Wear, Phoenix Hip Wear, and also Joe and Bella are all brands that have adaptive clothing. And I heard that Target is carrying adaptive clothing.
Yeah, I have heard of the Target line, and I think originally started focused was on children's clothing in this space. But I think that there's a lot of strategies that are just like that. We have patients who are in wheelchairs, using walkers, and things we don't think about that require that help. If someone has bladder incontinence or needs help with changing clothing, those are honestly where I see a lot of falls happening. People putting pants on, so finding different clothing that helps them in that space. One of our focus group meetings, we talked about the idea of if you do use a wheelchair, something many of us hadn't thought about, what do you do with a winter coat? And the winter coat sleeves getting caught in the wheels as you turn the wheel on the wheelchair. So someone had, part of our group does adaptive strategies, and she mentioned that vests that have coats instead of having the long arm sleeves can be really helpful for patients in wheelchairs too.
Really interesting. I saw that you have one gadget on the list here that is designed to help people get in and out of cars more easily.
Yeah, so one of the areas that people really have trouble with is getting in and out of low cars, for example, or getting up into a higher car. And this is particularly challenging for anybody who's had a total hip replacement. So they have a lot of times limitations for sitting down low and avoiding a hip dislocation. So there are different online products and different products that you can find within stores that allow you to have a basically an extension to the door to keep it from shutting on you as if you needed to use it as to lean into it and kind of pull, or to help you get up safely from a car. So those are options, that all kinds of different things that are coming out in that product line as well.
Yeah, I understand. There's even like a cane, right? That can help. What about the smart gadgets, the smart wearables and things, and how important they are today? And I don't know if they necessarily will prevent a fall, but they can help with notification.
Yeah, so there's been an explosion in technology in this area, and it's based on accelerometers. So it allows us to know something moving kind of rapidly in space. So that line of technology, when it first started, was difficult and almost overly sensitive or underly sensitive, not able to pick up what we really needed. But it's gotten much better over time. So you've probably seen the smartwatches that are out there that are picking up on the accelerometers. And I've heard people comment things like, my family member, I got a notification they dropped 500 feet rapidly, and it turned out they were on a roller coaster. So, sometimes it doesn't pick up on the things that we want, but it can be really a great strategy. I purchased one for several family members as I was hoping to help them feel like like they can navigate their home safely. But the truth is, it doesn't matter what age you are, you're at risk for falling. And we don't have great strategies if you fall. But if you have a wearable technology attached to you, there are ways to be able to call for an emergency service if you need help getting up, or if I've seen bikers who've been fallen off their bike and trapped in a ditch where it's actually alerted their family members. So there's really some great different technologies out there that can capture the rapid injury space.
And when it comes to preventing falls, I imagine there are things like motion sensors and such that you can buy that would turn lights on if it's at night with it, so that you're actually able to see where you're going or see if there's something on the floor.
Yeah, that's a really great kind of theme, is just home modifications in general, right? So motion sensor lights that turn on are great. I highly recommend putting them in an area that maybe your pet may not trigger them because you'll be waking up at all hours of night. But motion sensor lights are really cheap, can be placed anywhere, and definitely can be very helpful throughout the home, putting them in bathrooms and putting them along dark hallways. Other strategies are things like making sure that you have life alert if you have a family member that's at risk for falls, for example. They have buttons that they can push. I will acknowledge that technology is great, but as long as you remember to charge it, or that the battery is there. And so an example of that is, a smoke detector, right? We all have smoke detectors in our homes, at least we hope we do. And they're great until the battery's not checked or changed or done anything appropriate. And that's another side note. There's free gifts you can give your family members. So maybe your 75-year-old mom should not be getting up on a ladder anymore, right? So you could offer to get a service in there to change the batteries of the smoke detector or the light bulbs, or keeping people from getting on a ladder. So those would be ways that technology helps us in the home, but also can hurt us in the home. And so there are other strategies for picking up falls as well. So one example would be that there's smart technology out there, for example, like an Amazon Echo, or different services that are out there that you can actually shout out for help, which is even a great strategy for patients who can't remember to charge their life alert or have their life alert type systems available. They're great if you remember to wear them. All wearable technology is great, but it does you no good if it's left on the charger or forgot to charge it in general. So I always like to have a backup plan. So those type of systems have opportunities where you can get services to just shout out for help as well.
And they're so cheap today. You can buy them for, I don't know, $25 or something.
Yeah, and they can be really great for helping with medications, for example, too. So there are different systems where you can set up a calendar alert or timing alert for when to remember to take medications. To make sure that you're taking them on time, or it can even be set up as a reminder, say, take your medication with water at this time, or make sure you take if you're about to eat dinner, this needs to be eaten 30 minutes before, maybe it's a good time to consider taking your medication. So there's all kinds of really unique ways we can leverage technology. And if you have a family member who's not super technology savvy, that's one of the best services you can give them, is set up their technology for them and try to get rid of any barriers for making it work. So making sure that it's connected, making sure that it connected to the internet. I've had people who've had them in boxes off to the side when we've traveled with the paramedics. And so one of the easiest services, and we were able to help them to stop calling 911, was to actually set up their Amazon Echo for them out of the box. So then they could just use that to call family members for help, or do different things with that to help them order different things. So there's definitely ways that you can do cheap services for family members and really extend that gift to help them.
So there's also fire extinguishing gadgets, so things in the
Mm-hmm.
kitchen. So we've seen a lot of advertisements about blankets. We have a client that's the iGuard stove that shuts off automatically for caregivers that fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about weighted utensils and writing instruments. So for people that have had strokes,
Sure.
There's a lot, people that have Parkinson or stroke, there's a lot of products there too.
Yeah. So that's a really great point. So I'll start with the fire extinguisher piece. So I was really following those gadgets along the way. I think using a fire extinguisher can be very tough, especially when you're kind of in a panicky moment. So they've had new ones come out that are just spray foam and different blankets that you can do. And so then I went to the firefighters and I said, hey, what do you guys think of these products? And one of the first things they said was, that's great, except for probably the most important thing is to get out of the fire if you're not a fire extinguisher expert. And so I think that they wanted to also emphasize that like sometimes it's just the education that like you maybe should get out of it. A grease fire or things like that may not be you the one who solves, especially if you have immobility issues. So purchasing that for a family member should be used with a lens of, can they use it? Is this the right thing? Or should we spend more time figuring out a safe route outside of the home if something like that could occur? But definitely there's a lot of different opportunities and products along that. The other thing you can do is look at your family's home and see if they have like newspapers in their oven. Some people don't realize what people are using their ovens for. And I have a cat that has definitely knocked my gas knob into the wrong direction. So pulling those gas knobs off can be helpful too. I forget what the other part you had to that.
The weighted utensils.
The weighted utensils. Yeah. So these are excellent. So anybody who's got a tremor or Parkinson's or has difficulty, for example, feeding themselves or writing, there are different products out there that are just slightly weighted to allow for that tremor to be diminished. And a lot of cities actually have free lending libraries where you can actually try out some of these products before you go online and purchase them. So if you check with aging centers in your local area, sometimes you can even rent these out to see if they're products that would be helpful to you. We had people mention that even the most expensive products don't necessarily help each individual. So if you have an opportunity to trial it, that can even be a great opportunity as well.
On the list here too, we saw that there's an idea of ride service gift cards. Tell us about that and the value there.
So absolutely. So, I will talk about it from my own personal lens. So one of the things that I have trouble with is after my father passed away, I realized how much I had to kind of wrap my support around my mother. And that was really difficult with my schedule. As an orthopedic trauma surgeon, I'm constantly on call, or I had different activities that were in the way. And I realized that I don't have to be the one that does the services. And there are a lot of different app-based services out there now that you can kind of vet or provide services to. So when I brought this up, my brother-in-law started his own business just to be able to do this. So one of the things I was able to hire him for was we had a storage unit that my mom had to go through everything that she did with sourcing, and that was an emotional challenge for her, kind of going through what's important. How, if I get rid of this, I feel like I'm losing part of my husband. And so by hiring a service, that she was able to have someone who was basically like, describe why this is emotionally important to you, and could we get away with a picture for this, or do you need it? So there are all kinds of really unique services that have kind of grown out of this concept of like estate planning and downsizing and kind of Marie Kondo in your place, and kind of detaching that emotion from it. So that is actually a really great strategy. And also it helped me feel a little less guilty that I wasn't the one doing it. And I didn't have to be a part of that emotional drive either about whether I should keep that china or, that piece of clothing.
Well, there are many more ideas from you and your colleagues at health.osu.edu, things like light therapy lamps for seasonal depression, online or in-person fitness or meditation sessions.
There's a lot of great opportunities in all of those areas.
I love the idea of services that you're providing. Just a home organizer, that estate planner. I just bought a next of kin box. It's $200. It has all your files in one place. But the ride service gift cards, I think Uber is going to win with Uber Eats, and Uber will be at our conference, Fred. I do think that gift cards, missing medical appointments is a big problem. And so just having that opportunity to have a car service is a good idea.
Yeah.
And also I like the idea of siblings helping the primary caregiver by providing funding for some of these auxiliary services, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's not just the adult daughter, the sons can help out too with these things. So
it also gives everybody a sense of independence, right? So that's, a lot of people want to maintain their independence as long as you can. And that's one of the ways you can do it, is creating services that take that stressor off.
Yes, and I'm 75, so even driving at night is a challenge. So having that Uber gift card is a good idea.
Well, Dr. Quadman, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. Thanks to everyone.
Mary, when it comes to holiday gift ideas, there is some great new technology out there. We mentioned some of them with our doctor. The new Scan Watch 2 from Withings. It's a French company focused on digital health. They have a beautiful traditional watch design, but also it's smart with notifications and sensors that monitor your heart rate, temperature around the clock, sleep, and more. The design is very different from the competition, like from Apple, Google, or Samsung.
Yes, I also think Clairvoyant Networks is good to look at, and Ping. I really like the idea of ride service gift cards. Mobility can be so important when it comes to quality of life. Fred, I know both of us are fans of Lydia, and I'm giving a lot of people her new cookbook for the holiday, as well as the Ageless Innovation game, Trivial Pursuit.
They have several games. They've got Trivial Pursuit, Scrabble, and Life, and they've redesigned them for intergenerational play. And the website for that is joyforall.com. Our doctor was talking about keeping track of things and your belongings. And it came to mind that Artifacts, our friends there, and artifacts.com, they have a service that does all of that through an app and lets you tell the stories behind all of those belongings.
Yes, I love that product and service and team.
And it starts at just $36 a year. They've got gift cards too. It's ARTIFCTS. There's no A in facts there. We should also point out that our sponsor, VividPix, has a wonderfully easy way to restore photos and documents, essentially your memories. You can check out their new memory station at vivid-pix.com. And Mary, this has been such a busy time of year and the conference coming up.
Yes, I think so much to be grateful for, and so many great ideas of people embracing the longevity market and the care economy, and also how nice to have time with our friends and family this holiday. And Fred, it's been a great year working on the podcast with you, a great collaboration.
It has. We also want to thank Dr. Quatman for joining us from the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center. Just terrific. And thanks to all of you for spending time with us. You can always find us at maryfurlong.com/podcasts.